Naughty Dog are rumoured to be actively developing The Last of Us Part 3. Let's talk about that. Hello everyone, it's Aidan from Push Square, and yes, that's right, the rumour mill is churning away. Leaks and theories abound about The Last of Us Part 3 being in active development, and I wanted to take today's video as an opportunity to talk about whether that should happen and what we could potentially be getting with a Part 3 game, where the story could go, who the protagonist could be, all of that sort of stuff. Now, to start things off, should it happen? Should we be getting The Last of Us Part 3? And I find this a really difficult question to answer now, because when Part 2 was announced, I didn't want that game. I was very skeptical. I was nervous as to whether it would ruin the legacy of The Last of Us, which I see as a perfect game. But then I liked Part 3 better than Part 1, and you can watch another video of mine to find out why. But yeah, moving on to Part 3 then, I'm really hesitant to say, no, we don't need that, they'll just ruin it, because they might not. If we look at this from a really practical angle, The Last of Us is too big a franchise to not get a sequel in a way. Now, it's not quite the same as what it was back in 2013 when it first released, although it was a big critical and commercial hit. Looking at the last year and the year to come, we've got The Last of Us Part 1 remake on PS5, we've got The Last of Us TV show starting on HBO in January, and then we've got The Last of Us multiplayer project, which we'll hear more about in the summer. So there's a lot of content coming out regarding The Last of Us, so to not get a Part 3 would be a little odd financially. It's a massive franchise, it sells, and Sony knows it. So then begs the question, what would Part 3 look like? Well, I struggle to think narratively where this game could go, at least from Ellie's perspective. At the end of Part 2, and spoilers for both games I suppose, she ends her pursuit for revenge with nothing. She has lost everything because of it. She has lost Dina, she has lost the child, Jack? Is it Jack? I can't remember. She's no longer part of the Jackson community, so where would she go next in a theoretical Part 3? I can't see her rejoining Jackson. I'm not sure if we would see her living out in the countryside, but then from a narrative standpoint, with Ellie being the protagonist, is this really a continuation, or is it more of a fresh start in a way for a long-running series? Because then for me it would need to be a brand new narrative thread, a new hook, whereas Part 2 felt like a natural continuation of the story. And that brings me on to my theory with Part 3, and this might be controversial, but I think that Abby is the only logical protagonist for a Part 3. And that's because if you look at her narrative conclusion in Part 2 in comparison to Ellie, there's a lot more room for a sequel. We have her escape the bikers thanks to Ellie with Lev, and she heads off in her pursuit for the Fireflies. The end of the game, once you've completed it, the menu shows the boat that we've been seeing the entire time, but this time instead of being on the water, it's on the beach, and the building that is rumoured to be the last known location of the Fireflies is in the distance. So could we be seeing Abby hunting down the Fireflies and then potentially joining them? But then, what are the Fireflies up to in Part 3? Have they abandoned their efforts to find a cure? Or are they still hopelessly continuing it on? And that does bring me to another theory, narrative theory that I have that could involve Ellie. Could we see Abby, who knows about Ellie and her immunity, hunt her down for the Fireflies to offer her another chance at redemption? This is really the thing that has marred Ellie's entire life, is knowing that she was almost destined for greatness, the potential to save the world with a cure, and then it was taken from her by Joel. This could reinvigorate that purpose in Ellie to come back and finally offer herself in the hope of finding a cure. Now, of course, Abby's father was supposed to be one of the only people that could actually find this, but it wouldn't be like completely out of the possibility that there is some other person that could do this. So that could lead to a potentially really awkward and tense encounter with Abby and Ellie, and then potentially seeing them continue a road trip back to the Fireflies, encountering all manner of unsavoury characters to try and find this cure once more. Now that is obviously a kind of thin concept or premise for a part 3, but it is something I could potentially see with part 3. But overall though, I really want to know what you think about this rumour. Would you like to see part 3, and where would you like it to go? I know a lot of you weren't overly keen on Abby as a character. I disagree with that, obviously. So would you be annoyed? Would you buy a Last of Us game that didn't have Ellie at the centre of it? Or do you think that we're going to completely cut ties with the previous story? This won't be part 3. This is just The Last of Us subtitle, something else, a brand new start, brand new characters, brand new story. What do you think about that? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like. That helps these videos beat the algorithm and spread far and wide. And of course, if you like to see more PlayStation content, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you right back here on Push Square. See you later, guys.